Hi guys, welcome again back, and thanks so much for keeping up with these vlogs. It's been really super fun to do, and I'm really excited about documenting these for the rest of our little munchkins viewing eventually someday, if YouTube ever exists, or slash at home we can use them on our computer. I wanted to take a quick moment today to do my labor and delivery. And throughout this video, I'm going to insert some clips from the hospital and the laboring time and what it was like for me to go through, Raymond might be joining us, labor with Ciaran. So if you're interested in watching, keep the lookout. Keep watching. Okay, so basically, Ciaran was born on April 22nd. Come on, write it down. April 22nd, 2013. He was born at 6:59 in the morning, and laboring for me actually somewhat began not at 1 o'clock that morning, but 1 o'clock the morning before. And I started to, in my 5 or 6 trips to the hospital or to the bathroom to go to the for my midnight pees, was feeling when I was waking up that I was cramping. And I'm like, oh, cramps. I'm like, these don't feel so hot. I'm like, strange, because I normally don't feel a lot of cramping. And, yeah. And so when I was getting up, I was having a hard time falling back asleep, but really didn't think too much about it. And then I guess maybe once I got up that morning, Craig wasn't here, so I decided to take the dogs out to my parents' place to go for a run with their puppy. And when I was out there, it was probably closer to 10 to 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and I started feeling like more like surgy kind of cramping, where it felt like it was kind of coming and going. And I thought, I remember reading about this, and I remember being told that when things start to come into contractions, you're going to feel more like surges. And cramps are pretty much more of a steady feeling. So I got on the phone and I called my midwife, Callie, because she was the midwife that was on call. She was also not my primary midwife. Anita was, but Anita was not on call that week. So when I called Callie, I sort of gave her the rundown of what I was feeling. And I did notice that I was having a little bit of discharge, but it was really very watery. It wasn't very mucousy. So I thought maybe this is the beginning of my water breaking. So she basically said, okay, start to time them, and when they get to the 511 is the number, and that just indicates that you have 5 minutes between your contractions, that they're lasting for 1 full minute each, and it's been going on for an hour. So I downloaded an app actually that my friend Wendy had recommended, and it was to help to basically time the contractions. And as soon as you started to feel a contraction, you just hit start, and then when it was done, you hit stop, and it kind of gave you the rundown of in the last hour, in the last couple of hours, in the last 7 hours, what your contractions have been like. And so I started doing that. Anyway, I was out playing with the dogs, and I thought, these are kind of coming on a little bit more than I might feel comfortable being, because I was about 20 minutes from Kingston, and I was completely by myself with the 2 puppies. So I got in the car, I drove back to town, and promptly decided to start putting together the what's in my bag and what's in my baby's hospital bag. And I recorded them as I did, so if you haven't seen those posts, they're up. And as I was going through those, Craig came home, and I basically informed him that I think I might be going into labor. So we again just hung out and chilled out for a bit. And then when things started to get a little bit stronger and a little bit closer was around the 6:30 time slot that night. And so again, we called Kelly and we said, listen, you know, things are starting to get a little closer. It was quite painful. You know, I was definitely starting to get the sounds of like, ooh, you know, this isn't feeling good. So I'll insert some images and clips here. So when we called Kelly, her and she was working with Harriet, which was a student who had been has been at all my appointments essentially since I'd kind of been going on a 1 week basis. So around the 8 week mark, I'd been seeing her. So the two of them came and they basically did a swab, and there's a swab that you can do. We just went upstairs. There's a swab that you can do that will tell you if you have amniotic fluid. It will also turn black, the swab, if there's detected any blood or, I believe, urine. So when they swabbed, they said, no, it wasn't. So that basically gave me permission to continue to labor in my hot tub, which was good because I had changed my mind from heading in the water birth, and I was really wanting to be able to labor in water. So it worked out well, and it was warm because the water pools aren't necessarily warm. You have to keep adding water to them. So what happened from then? We went, I was in the hot tub, I was laboring in the hot tub. They said, you know, a little more consistent. When they had measured the opening, they said that I was 1 centimeter because she could get one finger in. She could feel the sutures on the tops of the baby's head, and actually the sutures on the tops of the baby's head where they were pushing, I think maybe Harriet was a little bit aggressive. Anyway, there was bruising, which I don't know is normal. So if it's normal and you know, let me know. On the top of his skull when he was born, and this is a picture of that. And anyway, so, and I think they said at that point I was facing, and I want to say 3 centimeters. So we, oh, he's so cute. I love him so much. And so we continued to do the laboring at home. I used my birthing ball. But the problem at the 6:30 time, okay, so I had to actually stop it and resplice it, so I'm hoping I'm going to pick it up at the right point. We have actually just left the house and gone and done some running around, and I've come back. I had to charge my battery. So I just wanted to say the 6:30 time slot, I was 3, I think it was centimeters effaced, if that makes sense. I should know this by now because it's already done, but Ciaran just woke up. And so I used my ball to labor on, but Ciaran at that time was actually facing face up, which is not the way that you want your baby, which is sunny side up. You want your baby to face down so it can dive underneath the pubic bone. And what they had done was they went in and they flipped him, but he wouldn't stay flipped. They were able to turn him, but he would keep turning over. And they wanted me to labor on my hands and knees, which wasn't really comfortable. The only place that I could find that was really sort of comfortable for me was to lean back on my couch with my legs in Baddha Konasana, which is like the butterfly pose with the soles of your feet together and your knees open. And I was just moving my hips from side to side, and my sound was something like this. It was pretty funny. And then, oh yes, I know. And then we kept laboring that way until what I thought was about 1:30 in the morning, and it actually was closer to 3:30. So 3:30 in the morning came around. I was definitely closer in my contractions, and we called the midwives again. They came back to the house and checked me, and I was only 3 centimeters dilated. And I remember when I took my birthing from within course, Jen had said with her 2nd or 3rd baby, she was like, don't tell me how far along I am until I'm at least 5 centimeters because you feel like you're doing a lot of work and you're not getting anywhere. And I didn't necessarily feel that way so much as I was like, okay, how much longer is this going to be? Because I know it can take a while to dilate to 10 centimeters from there. So again, they tried to flip him. He would turn over, but he wouldn't stay. And they said at that point that with being 3 centimeters, they would stick around for an hour and see if I continued to dilate to 4 centimeters. And at the 4 centimeter mark, I could make a choice if I was ready to go into the hospital. And I know by the end of that hour, I did dilate to 4 centimeters, which was good. And she said, do you want to continue laboring here? And at that point, I was absolutely not. I was exhausted because I'd had a pretty heavy week. And I had said, I didn't want to have an epidural at all, but I thought, just some basic drugs maybe would give me a little bit of rest time between the contractions. So we had decided at that point to go to the hospital because literally every time a contraction was coming, I was going, no, 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 no. And Craig's like, yes, yes, yes. I'm like, no, 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 no. It sucked. And it was sharp and it wasn't very fun. But I knew that the more I worked with it, the better things would progress. So I decided that we were going to go to the hospital at that point. And then I realized it was 3:30 and not 1:30. So we get to the hospital, I don't know, sometime closer to 5-ish, I guess. And he's asleep now. Closer to 5-ish, I guess. And when we got to the hospital, it was really busy. So when we went in, I called my mother. I said, I'll call you when I go to the hospital. So she came. She was going to be the other person with me. We actually chose not to call the doula because I just felt that at this point I was doing fine with Craig, and I knew my mom would be there, and we had the 2 midwives, and I knew there was going to be a backup midwife called, and I just thought there's so many people. I didn't really necessarily feel that super bond with the doula in the prior time because I'd waited so long to decide to have one, that we hadn't really done a lot of coaching or working together at that point anyway. Not that I had anything wrong with my doula. She's wonderful. She's actually my neighbor. But at the time I was planning on having a home birth, so things have changed. Now we're at the hospital, and we're put into what they call their triage room, which looks like a hospital room. It's got a bed, it's got all the monitors and stuff, but it's the place where they sort of check you in, getting ready to go into the labor and delivery room. And I'm laboring, and what they had done is they propped up the back of the hospital bed. Oh my goodness. They propped up the back of the hospital bed so I could lean over the back of the bed and kind of be on my knees. And as I was laboring this way, they thought it would be better to help to get him to turn so he was face down. And they had said when I first got there, do you want, the gas? And then there's a shot that you can have that's a combination of morphine and Gravol. Oh, I'm going to backtrack. I was vomiting at home. I vomited like maybe about 6 or 7 times while I was laboring, which was not fun at all. So that's one of the reasons why I was sort of thinking the Gravol and morphine thing was sounding pretty appeasing at this point. So we started off with the gas just to see if it could give me a little rest in between the contractions, and it actually helped me really regulate my breath because I could really focus on breathing in and letting it out and breathing in, and it became very meditative. But the problem was because I'm so used to breathing in a very deep way, I was getting really stoned from the gas. So all of a sudden I'd be like zoned out and almost kind of having this outer body experience, and I'd be like, oh my god, I'm having a baby, this has to come out of me. And then I'd be like, get this effing thing away from me, excuse my language, but I was like, oh my god, and I'd throw it, and it would wear off within a minute or two, and a contraction would come and it would be heavy duty. I was like, give me the gas. So they'd give me the gas back, and I said, do you want the morphine shot? And I said, yeah, I think so. So because we had come in and the actual hospital hadn't checked me at all, you stay in midwifery care throughout unless you need to be transferred cert care, which, is basically when you're getting into having a C-section at this point, because you don't even have to transfer care if you're getting the epidural administered anymore as of January with midwives. So, but what they do want to do before they administer those kind of drugs is make sure that you haven't dilated past 7 centimeters, because if you have, it can be potentially dangerous for the baby in taking its breath when it comes out, because it'll be it affects the baby as well. So we were waiting, and they were so busy, all the nurses were so busy that they said, okay, we'll take your word for it, go ahead. And so within about 20 minutes, they had given me this injection in my butt with a mixture of Gravol and morphine. And then the midwife and the student had left the room. So it was just Mom, myself, and Craig, and we're still in the triage room, so we haven't even gone into the labor room yet. and, you know, I'm laboring, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I kind of checked out. I, you know, was definitely getting into the labor point. And my water hadn't broken, and I said to Craig, I was like, they're not stopping, they're not stopping. And I was kind of like, oh my God, they're not stopping. And I was like, oh my, and then this urge to push came, and it was just like, I was pushing and I had no control over it. And I was just like, oh my God, what is going on? And I was like, I'm pushing, get the midwives. Or I was like, get the girls. I think for sure I grew horns at that moment. And so, anyway, so somebody left the room. I think it was my mother went to try and go get Kelly. And Kelly turned and said to the girl at the front desk, she's like, you know, if she has this baby before noon, I'm going to eat my shirt. So Harriet, I remember next being beside me, and she said, you know, it's okay if you need to push a little bit. It's natural. Go ahead and, you know, you can push gently. It's fine. And Kelly came in and she said, okay, we'll check you just in case, Jamie. And because I was pretty adamant that they weren't stopping. And so she comes behind me and she checks me and she goes, oh my God, Jamie, hang on a second. You're having this baby right now. You're 10 centimeters. We're going to need to call ICU, and I've got to get a wheelchair to get you down there. And so they needed to call ICU to make sure that when he was born that he was going to breathe. So as much as this should have concerned me, I was somewhere completely else, because I had just gone from active into my transition point, which was the pushing labor section where you're in full-on labor land. So I remember the next thing is somebody coming in with a wheelchair saying, you're going to need to get into this. And I was like, I'm going to need to do what? Like, I couldn't believe that I had to actually get up and move, because I was just like, this is not going to happen. But somehow I did. I got out of the bed, got in the wheelchair. They wheeled me way down the hall, which seemed so long, and into the room. Mia is sleeping. And so when we got into the room, again, they put me in that same position. So I'm just going to really just clip you into what the laboring was like at this point, and rather than explain it to you. So here you go. And anyway, so from there, you know, once we were to that point, we just had to deliver the placenta, and everything was essentially finished. I had a shower and was in the labor and delivery room for about 3.5 hours before they transitioned us into the regular hospital room. And actually, in midwifery care, you can leave the hospital as soon as 3 hours afterwards, because they come to your house the day after, 3 days after, 5 days after, and then, you know, if you need another home visit, they will do that. Otherwise, you go into their offices. And I was completely fine to do so, but Craig and I, with any labor, even a home delivery, you still have to book your room. We had reserved a private room for the delivery, and I think it was $250 for the private room, which I still haven't gotten invoiced for, and it's 5 weeks afterwards. Are you singing? Yes. So we had booked that, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get the private room until that day, until you know. And so we thought, you know, if there was a private room, let's just stay. Even though it's hospital food, it's food on demand. It was a place where it was a pretty neutral spot where, you know, people could come and visit, but they weren't going to stay forever, like you could potentially run into at home. And I just felt that it would give us that space where we were, you know, comfortable enough that if we needed healthcare, we had healthcare right there, and it was just a little place away from maybe the craziness of what had happened just, you know, in the laboring process at home. So we decided to stay because we did get our private room, because Craig can actually stay the night with the private room. In a semi-private, he can't. So had that have been the case, we would have definitely come home. Anyway, so yeah, so visitors came, and as far as my postpartum care, I didn't have any stitches. I tore just a little bit, and enough for them to just say, you know, here's some essential lubricant so things don't heal up together. And that was it. It was such a fast labor. By the time I had gone in there, where they start to say you are in labor is from active labor, so about the 5 centimeters to actual birth was 3 hours for me. But like I said, I dilated from 5 centimeters to 10 centimeters in about 15-20 minutes, and I think it was purely because of the way I was now hanging out over top of the bed. And I credit a lot of it to that gas, because I was able to find a nice relaxed breath. So after my labor, we were at the hospital for the day and night, and we had one more visit in the morning from Anita, who is my primary midwife. And she basically just went over some latching techniques with me in breastfeeding, and we had one of the nurses come in and show us how to properly bathe Ciaran, and that was it. So from there on, we were at home, and we left at about 11 o'clock the next day. So I'm going to put in again some more clippets of some things that might be of interest, and some visitors that popped in. My mom was in the hospital room with us, which I think was, well, it was definitely pretty special for me, and I'm sure it was just amazing for her to see her own baby having babies. And it was really comfortable. As far as the process, the midwives were wonderful. I had had my inhibitions with having a student, but she was great. And for any of you that are contemplating midwifery care, if it's anything like it is in Canada or in Ontario, I would strongly, strongly, strongly recommend it. It was so much more intimate, and it felt like a casual delivery. I had such a wonderful relationship with them beforehand, and I couldn't say anything better about it. So that's my labor and delivery, guys, and I hope you enjoy it, and we will see you on the next episode, because this is a television show. I'll see you on the next video that I put up. Thanks, and thanks for paying attention, and Ciaran and I are gonna go have something to eat now. Bye! Hey guys, thanks again for watching this episode of OneUrbanYogini's videos. It's me, Jamie McIntyre, and I'd just like to remind you before you leave to click the subscribe button so that you stay updated on everything that I'm posting, from any of my tutorials, DIYs, and all of the family stuff with Ciaran and Craig and myself. If you're interested in knowing about any of the past videos that I've done, you can also look at the link below for last week's or this most recent video, and stay updated with my Facebook page, my Twitter page, my blog spot. There's all sorts of ways to keep in touch, so don't forget to do so. And please comment and thumbs up if you like this video, because I enjoyed making it for you. And if you have any requests, please also leave that below. Okay, bye-bye.